Hey Soul Family, how are y'all doing? My name is Shelby. Welcome to the channel. I am bringing you a video today to talk to you about my spiritual journey, about my faith and experience in the Christian church. This is a huge topic for me because the Christian church dominated a lot of my lifestyle within these past 5, 6, 7 years of my life, or longer. And I just wanted to talk to you about it, and hopefully some of the messages will resonate with you. I created this YouTube channel as a space for us to connect, to explore a higher consciousness, to raise the vibrational frequency. I just wanted to bring this channel to you to help assist you in your spiritual journey. And if you come across this, I want to let you know that you aren't alone in what you're going through. I just wanted to be a voice of love and light for those who are going through the most right now. Even if you're finding yourself and you're like, life is beautiful, I'm in love with life, myself, etc. That's a beautiful place to be, and I just hope that I can bring a light to you. So let's see. When I was 14, I was given a Bible, and I had no idea what this book had to do with. I had no idea what to think of it, what to bring of it. Now, I was so curious. I wasn't raised a Christian, but I was so curious about church and religion. So I began bringing myself to church around my freshman year of college. And it was probably a Baptist church. Honestly, I never paid attention to the denominations because it didn't make a difference to me. I just wanted to learn about it and see what it was about. So at first, I felt really good to go to church. I felt like I was receiving a really positive, inspirational message. I will say that was the majority of my experience, where it felt really positive and amazing. However, I did start to pray and ask God about the truth, because I will say that I began to conform to the religion and to the teachings. However, I really was so confused about why Jesus Christ had to die in place of our sins, why he had to be sacrificed. The book of Leviticus discusses a lot of animal sacrifices to reach God. A lot of this stuff was unsettling to me, and it never made sense to me why a human being had to be sacrificed to pay for the rest of us human beings who are unequal and unworthy in comparison to God's one and only Son. Why is Jesus, this is my questions, these are my questions. Why was Jesus God's only Son? Where does that leave us? And why do we have to follow so many strict rules? Anyway, it confused the heck out of me, and it never fully aligned with me or made sense to me. And so I started asking the universe and source for the truth, and I discovered a book. It's random how things happen. It wasn't like I went online and was like, looking for truth, seeking answers. I came across a antique shop that was closing, and there was a bunch of books in there, and one of them was called Jesus and the Lost Goddess, and it was about the secret lost teachings of the original Christians. I can link the book down below, or you can look it up. It's Timothy Freck and Peter Gandy. Those are the authors. And what really stood out to me about this book is it wasn't just a bunch of text talking about something, it wasn't just a bunch of fictional information. This book about a quarter of the book is actually a bunch of references. It references a bunch of ancient, older texts, a lot of different stuff. It's amazing. There's so many references there. So it's not like something they just came up with and just said, hey, like this is what we think, blah blah blah. It's like, no, there's actually a lot that went into this book. So this book really started changing my perspective on life. And what it says is that the whole Christian ideology is basically made up. It's mythical. Jesus never really existed as a person. He was made up, and he never died on the cross. This is all just, it's a deeply encoded narrative. It's a secret teaching. It's not meant to be taken literally. And what I've learned along my spiritual journey is I had to really dig into why were we born as sinners? Because my church, one of them, one of my churches, the main one I went to, their biggest message is human beings are born sinners, and we have a Jesus-shaped size hole in our soul and our hearts, and we need Jesus to fulfill that. And it confused me, like, first of all, why are we born sinners? How, right? And the act of sin is just an act that separates you from God. So the whole basis of their teaching is like, we're born and we're already separate from God, so we need Jesus to fill that. Yeah. I'm just gonna pause right there for a second, because why did Jesus have to die for us? I mean, in what way? Anyway, it didn't make sense to me. It didn't resonate with me. The wind just started picking up, so I apologize if the sound is a little off. I'm on the coast, so it's inevitable. So these are my questions, like, why are we supposed to live the rest of our lives as disciples? And why am I supposed to fully accept and believe in something that doesn't really make sense to me? And Proverbs does talk about not relying on your own understanding. That just seems really manipulative to tell someone, like, don't try to understand the truth, just blindly accept the truth and go with it. That's manipulative, and it's super confusing, and it leaves people, I mean, for me, I realized that finding myself was the answer to my growth. I noticed that when I would pray, or anytime I would make a decision in life, I would question. I was like, wait, did God want me to do this, or did God want me to do this? And I was like, is this out of alignment with God's plan? How does God have a plan? How are we granted free will, yet God already knows and has established all of our plans? So it's so contradictory. It's like, okay, if we have free will, then I should be able to throw a rock without people being able to expect it, or God being able to know that I was about to throw that rock to begin with. It's like, it doesn't really all add up. I studied that Bible like it was the only tool in my toolbox, and it left me feeling really empty and really confused. And You know, I do come across people who talk about, or they will say that their lives have been transformed and complete through Jesus. Maybe that just wasn't my experience, and if that's your experience, then awesome. For me, you know, I accepted Jesus' love, and I really accepted him as my Lord and Savior. And I really did want to believe everything that the Christians taught was true. However, I remember this distinctly when I imagined, you know, I took Jesus and God, the whole Christian narrative out of my mind, and I began to look at my higher self as the ultimate protector, like my soul, you know, myself. And they say that Jesus' love is the most love you'll ever experience. Well, truthfully, when I connected to my higher self and realized that I am ultimately guided and protected by my own being, that was the most love I'd ever experienced in my life. I remember that distinctly. I just felt so protected and loved by myself from my own heart and soul. That was the most love. You know, I had Jesus in my life, of course, and I don't like the idea of turning my back on God, but I believe that when I stepped into my own light and my own truth, that's whenever I actually faced God rather than turn my back on God. And ultimately, what I realized is there is no act of sin. There is no separation from God. You know, we have our ego, and the Bible has a lot of wisdom. So if you watch my other videos, occasionally I will reference the Bible. I do believe some of the text is very beautiful. Proverbs being one of my highest, one of my favorite books. However, a lot of the Bible just didn't make sense to me, and I'm still learning, but yeah, those are just minor things. I found myself very unsettled and at a place of confusion and very disoriented, because I never knew if I was actually really making a godly decision or making the right decision according to his plan. And basically I just had to realize that we are our story and our life. We are the authors of the Bible, right? If the Bible is the book of life and the book of wisdom and the book of all the answers, we are the Bible. We are the writers of the Bible. You know, it says that the law, the Bible, everything is already written on our hearts. It's already inside of us. We just have to take years of studying to get that information back. No, Christianity and the church, it's an institution. It's a program to brainwash you. That's my belief. That's my honest take on being a really true, not so true anymore. I mean, yeah, it's corrupt and it's a brainwashing institution. It's soul sucking. I came to realize that later on. And it's more demonic than it is good. So take that as you want it. I'm gonna hit a couple other points on reasons why I really kind of turned my back on my faith. But I do like to attend Bible study groups. However, I started finding myself being stunted in my spiritual growth because of these brainwashing techniques that are put on to me. Sometimes I would hear a voice in my head, and it's usually a male voice, and I would determine, or I would discern that voice as being God's voice. However, that voice that was God's voice, or is God's voice, is a more fearful voice. It's not, when I hear a solid voice that I can trust, it's my own deep intuition. I am unemployed right now because I listened to this voice in my head that was scared. I listened to this voice and I'm just like, okay, that's God and that's God's plan. No, the truth is that was my ego. So, I'm working through my own situations, just as far as blindly trusting the Christian narrative. However, I realized that, so for one, the Bible requires you to willingly sacrifice your power. It wants you to completely surrender to the Spirit and just be like on autopilot, which is not being really consciously aware of your life at all and in control of anything. And that's how Christians want you to be, or the Christians in control, in power. They don't want you to have any autonomy. They want you to follow their law, It's so corrupt. It puts you, for me, and if you resonate with this, that's great. If not, turn off the video. You do not have to watch, but this is my experience. So I realized that it puts you in a victim mentality. So when you pray, you're asking for all these things to change in your life versus taking action. It puts you in a state of lack, right? Typically. And also a period, it puts you in a place of always waiting for someone or something to change your circumstances. Y'all, that's up to you. Jesus isn't going to come to your door, your bedroom door, and say, hey, get out of bed, go shower, brush your teeth. Like, don't forget to brush your teeth. Also, Jesus isn't real. I hate to say that because it's like, it almost seems like it seems like it's blasphemy. If you consider yourself a Christian or are a Christian, it's complete blasphemy from the church's perspective. However, I'm convinced that it's the truth because it makes sense. It's like, how are we born separate from God? Why are we born separate from God? The truth of our existence, and this is the ultimate truth, is that originally, before we took human form, we are source consciousness, and we still are, but we are experiencing the light from the dark side. So we're basically the shadow. So how do I explain this? We our ultimate state of being is love and all-knowing consciousness. We take human form to experience the alternative. It's for the purpose of experience and understanding, and this is a dream world. this all is a dream. Everything you're experiencing is a dream. And the reason, okay, so if I cut off my earlier video, so I'm going to just say this again. So the teachings of Jesus are encoded. So the death and resurrection of Jesus coming down from heaven to earth, that is actually a Christ oil. It's a sacred oil. They call it Christ oil. I wonder why. Okay. Christ, it's a sacred oil that travels from your brain down to your spine. What is it? I forgot the bone. Okay, it goes down to a bone in the back of your spine. And when you alkalize your body through alkalization, through your diet, you eliminate acidic foods like meat, alcohol, dairy, turn to alkaline foods like vegan, plant-based diet, and you preserve your sacred sexual energy, you will then, I also recommend grounding yourself and spending time in your own space and energy and really coming to a place of self-knowing. Talk to yourself out loud. This is how, so basically you undergo Kundalini. So it's a Kundalini awakening where this oil, now the death of Jesus represents the traveling of this oil down when you are opening your third eye and experiencing a spiritual awakening. This oil travels up your spine and electrically charges your pineal gland. It's a decalcification process. So the alkalization and the preservation of the energy, sacred energy, it's a decalcification process. And once you decalcify it, that oil travels up, electrically charges your pineal gland. It opens your third eye. You're then spiritual awake. The death and resurrection of Jesus, it took 3 days for him to rise from heaven, from death to... It took 3 days for him to rise from the dead, basically. And what that is referring to is the rise of the oil, which will take maybe 3 days. For me, it was a process. I didn't really calculate the amount of time it took, but when it happened, it was so clear. I went through a whole awakening where my whole entire reality was turned upside down and I couldn't look at anything the same. I was in a situation where I purposefully began consuming a bunch of garbage crap because I knew my third eye was open and it wasn't serving me at that time. It was too overstimulating in the situation I was in. So I purposefully actually recalcified my pineal gland, closed my third eye. I haven't gotten to the point of reopening it. I'm not ready, if I'm being honest. But I will tell you that it is incredible. You are using 100% of your brain whenever you decalcify and open your pineal gland. So the scripture is encoded. It's encoded text that is secretly referring to this bodily process, which is the rebirth, the resurrection of your... It's an awakening in the sense that you no longer identify with your ego self, your body, material world. You identify with the spirit. Perhaps I should make a whole separate video about this because there's so much to it. But basically, it's a bodily process. And the information I've stumbled across just talks about how the whole scripture, all the text is encoded with different deeper meanings, and I'm still uncovering those meanings, right? I haven't figured out I haven't tapped into every answer of the universe. But we're working on it. So I'm just gonna leave that there. Now, I dropped the Christian faith completely dropped it, left it behind. Sometimes I still find myself, I'm like, okay, I will say this. I had a glimpse, or I guess it was an awakening. It wasn't like a full third eye awakening, but it was me coming back to my awakened brain, my awakened state of consciousness, my awakened self, where I was driving down the road, middle of the night, after work, and I remember having like an awakening or just a glimpse. And what I realized, I started observing reality, and I started observing my perspective completely changed, in the sense that I was looking at my body and the world from a soul perspective, and I literally, kid you not, it was me coming to the realization that I am Jesus, you are Jesus, the great I am is us. So the statement I am, so those are the most powerful words in the world, in the whole universe, because whatever you put in front of them is what you will become. So you have to realize that you are source consciousness. You are the universe experiencing a human. You aren't a human experiencing the universe. You are the universe. It is you. You are everything. So I came to this awakening, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am Jesus. Something I already intuitively knew. Like, I knew it, but it was the experience of it, where I was looking at the world from it was almost like, it's almost like I could see the whole continent in which I was driving on from a tiny, like, it looked tiny. Everything looked tiny. And I even had an experience where everything in my physical reality, the 3D, started to look really fake. And you know, Shakespeare is famous for a quote that says, life is a play and we are just actors, right? Like this life is a play. Life is a stage. Life is a stage, and we are all the actors. So basically, we're just living in a movie, a dream, where we have full autonomy and control. It just takes waking up from the illusion of the 3D world and coming back to source consciousness, which is all love, all knowing, all being. What you are is God in its totality. Now, I do believe that we are not God. Like, we are God. We're gods and goddesses. However, the universe is alive. Like, this notebook is alive. This notebook is alive. The grass is alive. It has consciousness. We may not be able to interact with this consciousness just like we do with humans, but you have to realize that yes, we are gods and goddesses because we actually can take an idea or a thought and turn it into reality. You know, the grass can't really do that. It just kind of exists, but it still has consciousness. Now, we are gods and goddesses in the sense that we are co-creators of our own reality. However, the universe is alive. The universe has consciousness. I do believe, like, the idea of gods and goddesses are humans, but the idea of source is, you know, you don't identify with this cup. You're not like, oh yeah, this cup is me and I am this cup. Technically it is, because it's all just energy. Like, your energy, this cup is energy, this cup, it's energy. It's solid, but not actually solid. We perceive it as being solid, but it's actually vibrating in place at a really, really, is it low energy? Really low state of energy. So it's vibrating at such a low state of energy that it just barely moves in place, but it's still vibrational energy. It's still source consciousness. You are no separate from your neighbor or your friend or your parents. We're all the same. So we may be individual gods and goddesses, however, the totality of the universe, we're no separate from the next door neighbor. So we're all God as one. Okay? To say we're all gods and goddesses, I mean, we are. I'll have to reword that later on, but we're all just consciousness. We're consciousness experiencing itself. That's why we have the ego, because we are the shadow. And if you want to get into like a biblical perspective, we are the devil. You know, you have God, which is like, we are the dark side, and we have to awaken to the light side of ourselves. I'm gonna stop it there because my thoughts are almost becoming to the point where I don't even understand what I'm saying, but I also understand what I'm saying. I just can't put it into words because it's hard. I will admit it's a challenge. I'm gonna stop there. But last thing I will mention is awakening to my own power and my state of being, which is all-knowing source consciousness, which is realizing that I'm no less than what they made Jesus, an image of Jesus, as an object of worship, and they made his character so complicated in the sense that he didn't sin at all. He was not separate from God at all. If you want to look at Jesus, just look at him as the entire universe is one. It's hard to say that we are the universe in a person because there are other people. We're a fragment or a microcosm of the universe, if you will. And we do have autonomy, and we do have control over our reality. And you control your reality through words. Anyway, experience a spiritual awakening, and then hopefully this will make sense. If it already makes sense, then rock on, you're freaking cool. Everyone's cool. We're all cool. But like, I don't have a lot of friends, I will be honest, because my brain does work like this, and I do think in really broad terms. So I do believe that human consciousness is moving and expanding in this way, which is why I finally decided to record myself talking. But yeah, when I talk about these things, you know, there's not a lot of people I can vibe with. People either get confused or they just completely disagree. But this is my mind, right? We're all different, but we're all the same at the same time. So, and I do believe, and I will say that my thoughts, the thoughts I think towards myself, impact the way my sister thinks about herself. If I constantly tell myself, like, you know, I don't want to say anything harsh or ugly, but if I constantly tell myself, like, you have a big nose, you know, I do believe that someone in my field of, in my energetic space, might start to think that. So I will constantly reaffirm words of love and compassion towards myself, because we're all connected. So I will say that keeping your body active, grounding yourself, being out in nature, developing a relationship with yourself, alkalizing your body, preserving your sacred energy, all of these things will lead you down a spiritual path of an awakening, where hopefully a lot of this stuff will begin to resonate, or maybe it already does, or maybe it never will. That's okay. I'm glad you're still watching, and I just recommend forming a beautiful relationship with yourself and trust your intuition. Trust yourself more than you trust anybody, honestly. You have to trust yourself more than your own, your own parents. I think we've all figured that out. And I do believe since we are byproducts, and since we are byproducts of our parents, on the evolutionary scale, we are more evolved. Consciously, we're exposed to a broader source, a broader realm of information in schools. We are more highly evolved than our parents. So it's important to trust yourself, and I almost want to say find like-minded people, but maybe find yourself first, and then like-minded people will then be attracted to you. I believe that's the truth. I hope this resonated with you. And as far as my spiritual journey goes, I really wanted to discuss that, but I really got deep into the Christian stuff. I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life. I love myself. I'm more active. I'm beginning to become active every single day. Again, I used to, I fell off there for a little while. Depression, etc. started kicking in. Hydrate your body every single day. First thing when you wake up, just consume water. Put a little lime juice in it, squeeze it. Your body will alkalize it. Get plenty of rest. And spend time outside and connect with a higher vibrational frequency. Connect with a higher energy, right? I put the flowers in the frame because they're beautiful and they kind of raise the energy, raise the vibration. They're almost dead, but not quite. So, we're taking good care of them. They're getting sunlight. But yeah, I just wanted to tell y'all that I love you, and I wanted to share this experience, and I hope that it helps. And I really hope that some of this resonated with you, and I hope that, I will link some stuff down below, and I do believe that your soul journey is unique, and you are the author of your own Bible. Seriously. Don't let someone else's narrative shape your reality and make you fall into a victim mentality and fall into a place of not being enough, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're never going to be perfect like Jesus, because Jesus wasn't a real person. As far as I'm concerned, Jesus wasn't even a real person. It's a fictional character. It's just a means of control. It's a means of, it was all created and institutionalized to take us away from our own power and our own truth. And just trust yourself. And yeah, what's up? I love y'all, and I'll make more videos soon. Just if you want to like this video, that's your choice. And if you want to subscribe, by all means. We're gonna be a family, a soul family, and I do love you. And cheers, and take it easy. See y'all later. Always takes a second.